Hello, everybody. Welcome to our first panel session on 5G requirements from technology to verticals. So the background for the theme of this panel session was the intention to explore in which way 5G evolution will not be just about broadband mobile evolution, but a chance and a challenge to bring about new services and retransform the way that we see communications, especially when it comes to the digitization of the vertical industries. So the idea is to first listen to some views of different stakeholders and try to understand what are the requirements for the integration of applications that have to do with vertical industries within 5G, in which way 5G itself will, if you want, benefit from the integration of these industries and new applications, and how this accelerator circle will work out. What are the basic challenges, what are the opportunities from both sides, meaning the telecom side and the vertical industry side. So what we're going to do today is we're going to listen to the short presentation of the 5 panelists first, and then have a discussion and debate with questions from the audience, and if you want some questions addressed to specific speakers or to the panel or to the audience itself. So let me start with our first speaker, who is Luke Ibbetson. So Luke is leading the Vodafone Group Research and Development Organization, and he's responsible for all aspects of network IT research, including Vodafone's participation in international standards, the definition of the architectural blueprint for future networks, trials of emerging disruptive technologies and concepts, the evolution of telecom security, and long-term spectrum matters. So Luke, please, the floor is yours. Just there is a practical issue here. So just it so happens that Luke will need to leave soon to catch a flight. So I would like to ask you to make an exception. And if there are questions, immediate questions for Luke, please ask him right after his speech. Otherwise, all the other questions will wait for the other speakers will wait until the end of the presentation. So Luke, please.
Oh, there we go. Good afternoon, everybody. So you might get the impression from the excuse of having to run that I'm super important, but I'm not. I'm just super incompetent, and I booked the wrong flight. So my sincere apologies for having to cut and run just when the panel session gets to its most interesting part, which is, of course, the questions and the observations and the challenges from the floor. So my aim now is to be as brief as possible, in the small hope that if the rest of my panelists race through their presentations as well, then we might get to the discussion part. So I'll start with just not looking specifically at verticals, but just taking a broader view first of some of the key drivers around 5G. First of all, starting with the customer, looking at how 5G needs to be very much a step change from where we are with existing technologies in terms of its ability to deliver highly consistent coverage, ubiquitous data rates, and capacity. And the reason I'm going through these first is because I think these are some of the fundamental enablers for how we might look for 5G to intercept the future requirements of verticals. And I'll come on to this a little further in the next couple of slides. New business enabling capabilities, again, very much looking to see how these requirements can be refined in order to meet not just the future demand for mobile broadband or the future growth of our own industry, but also how we can set the bar a little higher in order to be able to serve some brand new businesses as well. So ultra low latency, you'll have heard, I'm sure, plenty about in the context of 5G, the the concept of a tactile, very interactive experience enabled by having ultra-low end-to-end latency of down to a millisecond. At the same time as having very, very high reliability and resilience, that means that the networks can be made suitable for critical national infrastructure. And of course, we've got all the normal drivers from an operator perspective around wanting to make the networks easier to operate, more energy efficient, very, very adaptable, very easy to launch and provision new services, very easy to also to explore and enable brand new business models that might have different parts of the network capabilities exposed at different places. And this is where the concept of network slicing comes in as well. And finally, of course, the scalability to support billions of devices. I was looking at the stats actually yesterday of the number of microprocessors that exist in the world now. 33 billion of those were shipped just last year. Now, I don't know how many of them go in the bin on a daily basis, but if you think about the scale, and by the way, that's increasing to more like 60 billion per year in the next 3 or 4 years, and then you look at how many of those could be connected, the scale of the opportunity starts to unfold. So there's clearly much more to 5G than just the air interface, and millimeter waves, of course, gets a lot of attention in terms of the 5G piece, and it's very important, but it's only one element of what we're considering for 5G, which really needs to be conceived as a full end-to-end system, encompassing all of these different user models. We do think it's important for 5G to be deployed in lower frequency bands, so we're able to deliver on some of those promises of ubiquity and availability, and not just have this as a service that is built out in very, very dense metropolitan areas, but is something which we might aspire to do across entire nations. New network topologies we see as having a big role to play, starting with 4G actually, when we start looking at the device-to-device communications and how that might evolve. And finally, looking at some of the existing developments and nascent technologies that by 2020 will be reaching a point of maturity, such as WiGig. So some of the challenges, technical requirements, I think, for these new verticals that I'm hoping we're going to start to discuss are not that well understood from the perspective of the telco industry. So it's very rare that I address a group of people interested in 5G and I find that many new faces, because quite often it's the industry talking to various bits of the industry, and it's actually quite difficult to form the right bridges with the other big verticals that we would desperately like to see our technology being made relevant for. So we're trying to do an awful lot of listening as we're thinking about the requirements for 5G, as we're thinking about exactly the cost at which they need to be delivered and the timing. So it's a very heartfelt plea from the mobile operator perspective that, you know, we only know what we know. We know how to make fantastic, reliable broadband. That's going to get faster. What we do not understand enough about is how 5G will form the basis of a new wave of robotics or mobile healthcare or manufacturing industries or agriculture or driverless cars. All of these things, from our perspective, are fantastic opportunities where I think 5G can, with the support of the entire industry, achieve something quite remarkable. I'm not going to go into the rest of the work here because I promised to be short, so I will leave it there. Thank you very much.
Any questions? Maybe we can.
So if there are any immediate questions, I'd be very happy to take them. Otherwise, we can try and pile through the rest of the panel and then get to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you again. Our next panelist is Marcus Dillinger. Marcus is with Huawei European Research Center and is heading the Wireless Internet Technologies Department, where he runs private and public research programs, for example, car-to-car and automation. So, Marcus, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to give you a little bit our insights how we can empower the so-called verticals by 5G or beyond 4G technologies. So it's a main focus on requirements, but also how we can do the collaboration in daily life. Let me give an outlook on the increased system capabilities we expect the next years to come. So you see on this chart, there will be a strong increase of the capabilities on hardware, but also on software solutions, but also a strong increase of connectivity, because we have learned it's better to communicate with each other. Maybe this is faster than to study tons of web pages. So there will be a strong need. But we see also nowadays we have no strong, I would say, demand or use of connectivity. The blue triangle denotes that. So there will be a strong increase in the future for cars, for automation, for e-health and other purposes, just to increase more or less the capabilities and the use cases and business models. This is a quite dense slide, but it gives you the idea, the verticals, what they nowadays use, which kind of technologies. So you see on the left side the industry sectors, transportation, energy, grid, automation. And they use some kind of, I would say, old-fashioned technologies, or not, at least not the main trends. Of course, they use somehow LTE, but I think they are relying on Wi-Fi, on Tetra, on GSM-R. Now we have recently deployed together with Nokia the German railway network with, let's say, the good old GSM-R technologies, and of course it must be future upgradable to LTE-R. But these are only examples that we still deploy good old-fashioned technologies, which is lagging behind, I would say, UMTS. We see also analog radios are still in use. We see microwave and, of course, Wi-Fi, IEEE technologies. And many of these vertical sectors complain that they have not a good technology, but they have also a little bit, they're lagging behind the wish to change something in this direction. For example, they neglected a little bit to further develop LLMP standards. Now they are looking whether 5G can complement LLMP or complement the good old technologies they have in use. Or we know from WiMAX Forum they use the so-called Y-Grid, this combination of WiMAX and Smart Grid in the US. It's nice, okay, but all of us know that WiMAX is not a major trend of radio technologies. This is an example of ITS services today and in the future. And what Luke also mentioned, the related network technologies. So we will have, let's say, 3 different network modes, the cellular assisted, we will have the fully V2X, and we will have the ad hoc V2X mode. This is important when you are in non-coverage areas, in tunnels, or you are somewhere in the desert. You still need cooperation between cars. And today we know LTE and others do not offer such a mode. And moreover, you need to manage the transitions between the different modes. So it's when you go off a tunnel, you suddenly have again coverage. So what do? These are things we need to more or less tackle. And you see on the left side more or less the so-called day 1, day 2, day 3, let's say ITS services. So day 1 is today what we know, what is now done by LLMP. This will be transferred now in SA1 in the 3GP to the LTE-V discussions. This is a good sign. So already we are moving forward. And we are focusing, I think, with 5G more on the day 2 and day 3 applications. Day 3 is fully autonomous driving, where we need a 1 millisecond and we need high reliable communication. Because now LLMP cannot give you any guarantees of quality of service. How can you allow LLMP to make changes in the steering wheel? I think the answer is no. Therefore, you need a very reliable communication in the day 3. This can be only done by a coordinated system by, I would say, 5G. And you see here on the lower part of the slides some expectations. So with 5G, we would expect we have also high-speed autonomous driving, whereas in ad hoc, it's clear the velocity of the cars go down. These are first analysis we have done. Here, conclusion for the collaboration also in the oncoming 5GP project proposals. It's not that we just get the requirements from them in annual workshops and then we go home and implement it. We need actually a close day-by-day cooperation, because they also need to shape their requirements. They need to know what are their requirements in business. It doesn't make sense to develop something which they need in 20 years. So you must be aware what is their timing they're facing in the market. But also we get useful information about antenna concepts they use in cars, in robots. This is quite different to smartphones. We need to understand, for example, the channel modeling in cars. We have no consolidated channel model we can use for car-to-car. We have the winner model, everyone knows of you that. This is cellular to device, but we don't have any device to device in high speed, let's say, high delay spread and high Doppler situations. This is not yet standardized. It's the first action item for 3GP to do that. And of course, we get also the user requirements, traffic mixes, and we define the layer 1, layer 2 procedures, but it's a joint design. Important is that it's not just that we get requirements and then we have something at the end of the day. This is important, and I think this completes my talk. Thank you.
Our next panelist is Jean-Sébastien Bedeau, who is the head of Networks Foresight and Strategy for Orange Labs Research. He is a member of the board of directors of 5G Infrastructure Association and of the steering board of the Network 2020 TP. So, Jean-Sébastien.
Thank you. Thank you, Angela. So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So, I'm very pleased to be here, even if I'm replacing here my colleague Benjamin Sardar from Orange Healthcare. So, I will talk mainly about health today and a little bit about automotive. So, just to highlight a few transformations that are occurring today in the health sector. So here it's the four main areas where we foresee really new needs, and especially where we are thinking about health sector today, we are thinking that what is really needed in terms of mobile networks. And there is really currently a change with, I don't know if it's, no. Okay, I will try to do it like that. It's what we call the extended hospital. The idea is that today the healthcare system is really built to deal with kind of crisis. So you have a very important disease, and then you go to the hospital, you get treated there, and you go back home. So today what is going on is really the transformation towards chronic diseases, really living with a chronic diseases like everybody. And this needs new means to measure different parameters in the body and in different situations, at home, in the office, in the street. So really this involves a more important mobility aspect in the way that we deal with the health system. There's also a strong transformation of the industry of pharmaceuticals and things like that, because today this industry is really oriented towards products, and they are going towards services. So this is a transformation that we have foreseen in different industries, and this is really linked to the digitalization of this industry. Then there is also the third part is really to aggregate the different data that we can have in the health system. Different sensors, different ways to measure the parameters of the patient, and to cross this data, behavioral data, data about your sport activity, and to cross this data and extract some value from there. And of course, around that, there are lots of issues regarding security and privacy. And last but not least, it's a specificity of Orange, but really something important for us. We are very present in Africa, and you know, Africa has the healthcare system is quite difficult to access for a large part of the population. And with mobile, we can really bring some prevention means, some new means to access to this care system to this population. So maybe to get into some details here to illustrate what I've said. So here it's just a new tool to make echographies. So you see it's very small. It's this size. So with this type of tool to make ecography, you have the same type of, for example, now they have a machine to make blood analysis, like you are doing in a very big laboratory today. Now they have launched a tool of this size. See, very small tool. And now it can bring some ideas to really have mobile customer journey or mobile patient journey to use these tools at home and in mobility. Second illustration about this transformation from medical device industries. So really the chronic diseases, it's 80% of the costs and 40% of patients worldwide. So it's a very huge amount of patients. And today we have this new means to take care of them at home, at the office. And this is very, very important. Then maybe a few words about security. I've taken this picture to, I don't know if you have seen this movie, Homeland. In this movie, there is somebody was a pacemaker, and this pacemaker is connected to the web or the Internet of Things, how we call it. And somebody can enter into the system which control this pacemaker and can kill the person being remotely. So during the production of this movie, Orange Healthcare received a lot of calls from the patient customers saying, oh, is my pacemaker ready to resist to any attack, to any pirate breach, and so on. So for today, the pacemaker and things like that are very limited in their number of interfaces, so we are quite confident of their security. But if we look at tomorrow at these devices that I've shown a bit, and more complex things like robots, the interfaces will be very, very numerous. So we need really to take care of this security parameter for healthcare. It's a key requirement. So also, if I want to conclude also on that, on the part on Africa, really a strong parameter for healthcare is the requirements on low energy consumption and ultra low cost. In this country, there is no possibility to have a very big RPU with this type of healthcare services. So we really need also to provide with 5G very, very low cost solution. So last but not least, I wanted to talk a bit about the vehicles. So Marcus has said a lot, but what I can add maybe is that the key feature of 5G for lots of car manufacturers is its ability to deal with heterogeneous technologies, both ITS and connectivity for media and entertainment. All these things together in one module. This is really key for the automotive industry. And one thing I wanted to stress also is that there are also not only research and innovation topics around this vertical sector. There are key regulation topics. For example, in the automotive sector, the spectrum is already very packed in some areas. If we look at the different usages that you already have when you go in a motorways to pay your tax, the spectrum which is used is in competition with some technologies that we are forcing in different forests. So the regulation on how we use the different services in V2V and V2I industry will also play a big role to really deploy these technologies in the 2020s. Okay, that's mainly the things I wanted to say today, and thank you very much.
Our last presenter is Takehiro Nakamura. He's VP and Managing Director of 5G Laboratory in NTT Docomo. He's been working for research and development of wideband CDMA, HSPA, LTE, LTE Advanced, and 5G technologies. And he's been engaged in the standardization activities for these systems at ARIB in Japan since 1997. He is currently the leader of 2020 and Beyond ad hoc in ARIB and the acting chairman of the Strategy and Planning Committee of 5G Mobile Communication Promotion Forum in Japan. So, please.
Thank you.
Oh, no.
Sorry. Looks this one.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much for your kind introduction. And I'm Takehiro Nakama. This time I came here as a representative of the 5G Communication Mobile Promotion Forum in Japan, not my company entity Docomo. So I'd like to explain our 5G MF activities in this panel session. And let me introduce briefly on what's our group. And we established 5G MF was established in the end of September last year. And the chairman is Professor Yoshida, Kyoto University. And also currently numbers of the members I found that the latest information is currently 78 members. And ordinary member 52, and also academia members are many members. And currently most of the members are ICT companies, not only the Japanese company, but also the global major companies included. And but also we have some kind of gaming companies in our forum, and also we are trying to invite actually vertical players aggressively. And okay, and our objective is like this: to promote R&D concerning 5G mobile research and study 5G mobile standardization, collect information related to 5G, blah blah blah. So this is our objective. And this is our organization. Actually, we have 4 committees, and I'm actually acting chair of the your leftmost strategy and planning committee. But for this session, maybe most interesting committee should be a service and application committee. And in this committee, they are trying to identify the services or applications to be provided in the 2020s. And they are aggressively trying to discuss and gathering information on the future views on the many kinds of the industries, not only in ICT industries, but also the vertical players, automotive, healthcare, and bank, and so on, many. And this is our views on the market and the user trend. And our slogan is that everything can be done via internet, and the people will enjoy its benefit. And ICT will be used in much more cases and will be applied for vast variety of services like this. Maybe all of them should be related to the verticals: agriculture, healthcare, manufacturing, and supporting flexible lifestyles. And also, especially in Japan, we had serious disasters, many disasters we have and we will have. So some kind of the good and robust system will be needed for such kind of the disasters. Okay. And this is a typical use case, usage scenarios for 5G. Yes, transportation. This is maybe car, train, healthcare, disaster, education, richer contents, house, consumer electronics, safety, lifeline system. So all of them should be related to the verticals. And this is our midterm activities. And as you may know, in Japan, we are aiming to launch our 5G services in 2020, not only for the Olympic game, but also in any case, in order to meet the requirements in 2020s, we need to start our services from 2020s. So in order to do that, we are planning some kind of the aggressive activities. Especially, I would like to say that from the 2017s, we will conduct the proof of concept, actually experiments in the field. And maybe from the maybe I can say that, oh, okay. And the proof of concept objective is the estimation of the research and the development result in 5G MF activities and the estimation of the operation of the overall 5G mobile, and the demonstration, of course, of the output of our group, and also promotion of practical use of the 5G mobile. So yes, this is the actual time plan for the proof of concept schedule. And from this year, we are discussing about very fundamental aspects. And in any case, we will start our proof of concept experiments from 2017. At the first stage, maybe we will treat fundamental technologies mainly for the radio and the network. But through the experiment, especially from the 2019, we will try to conduct proof of concept experiments, not only radio network, but also the applications. So overall 5G systems trials should be started. And we are now trying to identify what kind of the scale and what kind of the way to conduct the trial is good to show the 5G use cases to the users and the normal people. So maybe hopefully at that time we can show the variety of the 5G service at that time as some kind of example of the use cases. Okay, thank you very much.
We will start by just accepting some questions from the audience to any of the panelists. So just to give to try to, if you want to describe the landscape here, the idea behind the selection of the panelists was to represent the different stakeholders' views from the side of manufacturers, vendors, operators, research and academia, and fora that are involved in the effort for standardization and regulation. So, of course, this does not mean that your question needs to be modulated according to this kind of categorization, but I'm just trying to give another dimension, if you want, to the views and the possible answers that will be given. So with that, are there any questions?
Mikko Ustola from Nokia Networks. Akwami had in his end slide relation with missing stakeholders, so these vertical sectors themselves which were not involved. And it's a bit challenging because there are quite many of them, and we need to interact with them in each of them in a different way. But anyway, Angela had quite some questions, good questions related to them in his background material for this panel, and I think that there was a lot of good material, but we didn't yet go into the key questions of Angela. And so I would like to raise them again. So how do you see that? What is the right way to interact with these vertical industries in terms of standardization, and then next phases after that?
So the idea was if there are additional questions different from the ones listed, but since Mikko proposed that, then I think we can go directly to the ones listed in our description. So Mikko's question is about how you think that the two sides, the telecom side and the vertical industry side, should interact and try to foster collaboration and engage to join activities towards the same goal. So do you want to?
Okay, so it's a very important and interesting question for everybody, I guess. And maybe Nokia also, and most of the companies are trying to contact to the vertical players like automotive companies or healthcare companies independently, and also my feeling is recently those kind of vertical players also has some interest in the 5G, what a 5G and what can be realized and what would be useful for their industry. So maybe we are now crossing. Relationship is closing, but usually we try to ask requirements from the verticals, but it is not so good, I think, and maybe we ICT companies should show the seeds. What can we do for you, as an example, and then maybe we can have a more discussion and a more close relationship we can realize, I think. And also, of course, our 5G MF group, like there are so many 5G organizations. So in each organizations, they are very aggressively trying to contact to the vertical players. And I think, hopefully, in near future, there maybe a situation will be changed gradually. And hopefully we can have some kind of good place to have a good discussion with the vertical players. That's my expectation, not my hope, expectation.
Yes, it's a good question how to involve vertical players. Usually we first make the specification, then the simulation, and then the hardware. I have the feeling with the verticals different. You start with the hardware, then they understand what could be their requirement, and then you start making the innovation and the, let's say, specifications. So first they want to be convinced that a hardware can bring some added value to them. And you need to raise the awareness in the organizations to the C-level management that they have a benefit from that. Because it's not their main focus, the telecommunication, but you need to show them what could be possible if you introduce this and that. And we must also be aware, not every will be the first, let's say, mover. There will be quite conservative companies, or let's say sectors and sectors which are more, let's say, likely to adopt new technologies. I had a discussion with let's say, a smart grid manufacturer, and he told me, we have SDH since 20 years, why do we need IP? Yes, of course, they have 200 people developing SDH for the next 100 years. So you see, you must raise an awareness why, for example, IP is better than SDH. What are the benefits of that? So there are many examples in the energy sector, but on the other side, there are, let's say, better adopters in automotive or maybe also e-health, who are more ready to invest and to think about new technologies like 5G.
Yeah, I really agree with Marcus. There is different level of maturity depending on the vertical sectors. Clearly, we have already established links between the ICT sector and automotive. I think we are at the stage of really proposing innovation together, so real project, research and innovation project. So this is, I think, the thing that we need to do to really innovate together, because we see that they have really in mind the use cases, the customer journey that they need in their sector, and we have also in mind all the technology that 5G, the technology component that 5G will bring. And for example, I will just give a very specific technology component, but mobile edge computing can, when some industries are made aware of this components, they are starting to think, oh yes, this I can use for this use case, etc. So we need to start really exchanging on both sides, so requirements and also capabilities that will be in 5G. And we have started to do this in the 5G Infrastructure Association. I think NGMN has also started to a project on this. So in the coming months, we will really see these stronger links together. And I would say that automotive and health, and also, of course, the media sector, which already for a long time working together with ICT, would be the three main vertical sector for the next month that we can already together work on 5G.
I think we need a common standardization body, We have to treat other vertical sector as a partners, not observers. We have to involve them from the beginning because they know their network requirements and they would be very helpful. But unfortunately, the standardization, like 3GPP, not flexible for the other sector to join. It's very complex for them. Therefore, has to be changed completely.
If I may follow on this last comment, from what you're telling us, it looks like there is a different approach. And that's why we use the word verticals. So the vertical side is, seems to be more, if you want, fragmented as we view it from our telecom point of view, which means that every different vertical application, say transportation, health, smart grid, government, you name it, seems to be a completely different case from their point of view. At the same time, there is some encouragement in the sense that they might be looking for the benefit of exploiting the performance of 5G, but they are using a different approach, which is mostly and 100% focused on their own objective, their own vertical application. On the other hand, the telecom side is used to a horizontal approach that would just differentiate the requirements for the different applications. So how do you think about this collaboration, fostering this collaboration? Is it a collaboration that should be fostered on a case-by-case basis, so it should be a different exercise for a different vertical industry? Or if we need a separate standardization forum, would this be a forum that would cover several verticals? That's, I think, one of the main challenges here at the high level.
I think we have to involve actively all vertical sectors in a standardization. As I mentioned in my presentation, not only they have to be involved in a standardization, they have to invest. For that, we need a good business model for them to show the benefits. Otherwise, they wouldn't be interested. Therefore, it's, yes, possible to get all vertical sectors in one standardization body if the procedure very efficient and flexible.
Yes, I agree to that. I think there is also a certain mindset in the vertical sector. Many people believe there we can do it by our own sensors. We don't need communication. Communication is not reliable enough. It does not help us. So, of course, it's true they use wireless LAN and you have no quality of service, but it's all what they know. Of course, they use also LTE, but for lower communication. So we need to involve them actively. Maybe one point is maybe in the 5GP to involve them as shared member. There is now, I think, Ertico maybe coming. There could be more members to be on the telco side, to work together. And it's also about requirements engineering. They don't have a Bible where the requirements are written. It's also that they need to develop this. They need to make the right phasing. It could be that we develop things they need maybe in 20 years, not now. So we need to be quite careful. What do they need when?
Yeah, I used to work for 3GPP, and I know that it is very difficult to. It was very difficult to collaborate tightly with the vertical players in there, but because the 3GPP developed the specifications for rather near-term or mid-term future. And the near-term or mid-term, maybe each industry has already had a plan or already had their own systems, solutions. So it's very difficult to change from what they has already had. But yeah, 5G is maybe a very good place to collaborate between the industries. This is a rather long-term evolution. further long-term evolution. So it's a time to collaborate for the future good services and a good environment. So in that sense, maybe even for the vertical players like automotive companies also noted that point. And recently, they also had a strong interest in the 5G. I know that in the METIS project, BMW is joining. And also, I know that many car companies has already had a strong interest in the 5G. So situation is a little bit different for 5G. So I hope that for the 5G, we can have a more opportunity to collaborate with the vertical players.
So would you anticipate that there should be real gaps, like missing technologies or completely new performance metrics that would be really difficult to address from the point of view of 5G evolution? Would you, if you had to guess, what would be one of the most difficult problems to address if one was to approach, to make an approach that would be suitable? I mean, we have probably in our minds the issues associated with machine-to-machine and cellular, for example. This is a baby example to what types of challenges could arise in that. Is there some missing technology or some missing architectural feature or even some missing performance KPI that you think would be the killer or the critical one?
Yeah. So far, I also tried to ask a question: what's your requirements to the vertical players and another industry peoples? But answer is very normal, very high speed, low latency, and so on. So those kind of requirements has already captured in our requirements. That's what's already discussed. And as I said, it is very important to show the seeds. What can we do for you? Yes, not asking the requirements. So maybe that is a good way to have a more tight collaboration. And what I wanted to say that I forgot. So please.
Yes, there are also headcounts in the organizations. So they have, of course, not 2,000 people for wireless research. They have maybe 4 people, but these people are available, and you must get hold of that. And they're willing to cooperate in projects, for example.
Yeah. Maybe what I can say about the question on requirements, and it's also a part of the answer on the previous question. I think the requirements are very different depending on the sector, the killer requirement, let's say. For example, some industry like energy or factories are very much focused on reliability and the kind of constants in our performance. For example, they are not seeking for 1 millisecond latency, which is very different for automotive, where this is very needed. But for a very constant latency, because today with LTE networks, we have large variability, and this was explained in your presentation about haptics and so on. So this reliability is something which could be very hard to achieve, especially if we are looking at very high coverage. Like we are forecasting with application in agriculture sector or things like that. So, but this specific requirement for this type of application is not at all what is the killer one for automotive or for health, where for health the security is really key. And so for me, this question of requirements asks for flexibility and for also taking into account the diversity of use cases and of requirements that will come from the vertical. So this is maybe this type of flexibility is something very new and very difficult to achieve.
I think I mentioned several times that we got already fragmented standardization. For example, a smart grid in EuCNC, machine to machine in EuCNC. and 3GPP for mobile and others. And this is a major problem. I don't see any problem technically. Technologies are there, but we should learn lesson from internet. When internet came, it was very native internet. Later they want to add security, mobility, but it didn't work. They got negative interaction. Therefore, we have to start from clean state to consider all of them at the same time. Because those vertical sector application got diverse requirements. Therefore, you need a very, as you mentioned, very flexible infrastructure to be, and we have to consider the cost of infrastructure. If you got a lot of money, you can achieve everything you want. Technology is there, but the low cost, very, very important issues.
Yes, I just remember what I wanted to say. Yes, flexibility, yes. Yeah, I fully agree. And according to the requirement itself, we studied so much about the requirement, and maybe the requirement, all of the organizations has already showed covered all requirement for all industry, I believe. But technical challenges are, yes, flexibility. And of course, we don't need to meet all requirements simultaneously. Maybe case by case, case by use cases. But in any case, from operator point of view, of course, we want to provide a variety of services by our single network, of course. We don't want to have a variety of networks for each use cases. So in that sense, the system have to be very flexible to meet the requirement for each use cases. But yeah, as you said, low cost have to be realized. So that's a very, very difficult challenge, I think.
So if I turn the question around and ask the flip side of it, so do you see in 5G, in what we envision for 5G, some specific features that would encourage the proliferation of verticals as opposed to the previous generation? So is it now, seems to be now the right time to accommodate the vertical industry requirements? What would be that feature from these high expectations, list that we have, that would you consider really important this time?
Yes, I remember 2006, the smartphone was invented by Steve Jobs, more or less. And then this was the start where the car industry started to think about more innovations in cars. So it took some time that this hype went over to, let's say, the car makers, that also now customers require some kind of, let's say, telematics support or some entertainment support as we are used to it. And this is a clear sign they need to do something. For example, the growth rates will be quite moderate. There will not be any big growth rates in the future, also in China. In the US, there will be some kind of fight for market shares. And if you don't provide the right technology for the driver or passengers, then the guys buy another car. It's not the horsepower anymore that much. For young generation, it's the, let's say, gadget crazy stuff for IT infotainment. So there's the right time now to invest, and we see something similar for e-health. It's also, the pressure is very strong everywhere. We need to save costs. We spend, I guess, in China maybe 1 billion in 2020, in the US also already. So it's not trillion, sorry, it's not billion, it's trillion actually. And if you can save 1% whatever, you will have a large benefit on that. And the question is how to stimulate the markets. But there is a time now for investments, I would say, in automotive sector, in e-health sector. Energy, maybe because we have smart energies, we have decentralized energy generation. operations, storage, and so on. But of course, here is a little bit more difficult because people are more conservative. And what you said with the features, I think we need to provide quality of service now. We have wireless LAN in many places. They cannot provide, let's say, really safe driving, or that the robots can really do safely any interaction. When you have interference and the robot kills people, then this doesn't make much sense. So you need some kind of really assured, jitter-free, more or less what you said, end-to-end quality of service, guaranteed with, I don't know, 4 nines, 3 nines, maybe 5 nines. This needs to be shown. I think these are things which are not yet there. We know that when the load is increasing, LT, the delay is also increasing. So the car makers come to me and say, we have now in downlink 12 seconds delay. It's nice, okay, it's LT, it's not GSM. These are things where really the technology doesn't work. And here we must provide some better means, like improved end-to-end jitter, jitter-free, whatever, guaranteed delivery times of packets, reliable communication. The bandwidth is maybe not that important compared to MEP, but there are also, of course, MEP applications in this area.
I think, in my view, we have to have two approaches parallel. An evolution approach is already continue on 3GPP for faster, high capacity network. But at the same time, we need, from a clean state, starting to standardize a parallel network which can support almost all vertical business sectors, and equally as an equal partner to bring them, not as an observer or rest of it. I think now is about time. But what I call it, one approach is evolutionary, it's been done, it's carrying on, but the other one from clean state have to be. That's my personal point.
On that point, very, yes, important points. But from operator point of view, we want to have a very smooth migration from the existing system to future system. And also, in order to provide a very stable services, we want to use the existing system, LTE. That is a very good system. But I agree that maybe some kind of clean slate approach should be considered to reach the very high requirements, variety of the requirements. So, but maybe currently most of the organizations think that maybe both approach in the sense the LTE need to be enhanced continuously. On top of that, maybe new radio should be added. So that could be some kind of clean slate approach. Can be, for example, use of the higher spectrum band or something. That can be new one. But we should consider the tight interwork between them. If so, that maybe we can meet the both, we can satisfy the both approach, clean slate and stable, smooth migration of the system. That's our thinking and my hope as an operator.
I just add a few words on top of what has been said, which is very, very true. So one of the key features also of 5G is the capacity to aggregate different capabilities and different technologies of access. And this is really something which is interesting for vertical sectors, to have a kind of operating system view of the entire network infrastructure. So to be able to really impulse the performance where they are needed and use the infrastructure which are already deployed by the ICT sector for their needs, and to be able to innovate on it with a software-defined approach. So this is really, I think, a key point to help them to involve them in the 5G design also.
At this point, I think it would be a good idea to again ask if there are any questions in the audience.
So Matti Latva, University of Oulu. I think this is very important and vital issue, that how do we get verticals involved? And I'm, let's say, trying to tease these operators a little bit here. But I think the bottleneck is that operators, you try to dominate everything. And for 5G, I think it would be vital to think about business models a little bit differently, that maybe there's a need for specialized mini-scale operators working in very close collaboration with you big guys who really understand the processes deep down to every detail in order to be able to develop very efficient verticals. Another thing related to this is that if we think about these verticals and densely spaced networks in the future, who will build the networks, who will operate, maintain, who will provide power to these networks? It's not you, it's somebody else. So can you comment on this?
In other words, do you see also some paradigm shifts, some changes in the stakeholder chain, some opportunities for new players?
Of course, we need to work on the business model, and it will be a shared business model. If you look at what is already developed with some M2M, Internet of Things, let's say, for example, the metering, we are already doing a lot of things, and we have this type of model you described with the telecom provider providing some functionalities and some integrator on top, and the vertical player involved in there. So. Of course, we need to think about this business model, and some parts of the infrastructure are not owned by the operator today. Of course, if we are thinking about very capillary networks in M2M, it's something that is shared with different players. So this is an important part, of course, and but what as operators we have in our genes, let's say, it's really this management of the end-to-end service. Even if some parts of the infrastructure are shared or not owned by the operator, this end-to-end and quality of service view, or even quality of experience view of the customer is something that we can really have an expertise and provide to the other players in the game. But clearly the tendency is to have partnerships, more partnerships, and shared business models in this area.
I agree to that. We had also discussions with the energy guys to say we can have a sharing economy. You get my sites for your base stations, and you promise me that my data is sent for free. So you can have some kind of synergies between, let's say, guys who are having assets. And this is what you said. It's a shared business model somehow.
I think the talking or coming up with a business model, innovative business model, is more challenging than technology challenges. But in my view, as I showed in my presentation, the common programmable infrastructures should be shared. How much resources, services you use have to be distributed among all stockholders, what I mean vertical business model. But that is very simple business model. It's very complicated.
Other questions?
Luis Correa, IST University of Lisbon. I have a question which is not directly related to these, but indirectly it is. It's a very down-to-earth one. Do you think that for 5G we'll have computers that by default they will have the 5G SIM cards or not? Because we don't have it yet, right? For the computers, we still have laptops without a SIM card. You need the dongles. So we will have for 5G the built-in radio for cellular networks, or not yet? Only we need to wait for 6G?
Yeah, I also like such kind of thinking, and our company point of view, we want to connect everything via wireless, not only computers, but also everything, consumer electronics, car of course, but clothes, jewelry, or everything can be connected via wireless, and then maybe we can get a variety of information, and we can provide very, very new services. So yes, SIM cards. So maybe we need drastic changes on the concept of the SIM card, I think, for that. So that's my hope, actually. But I know that it's a little bit difficult issue, but I really hope that.
Simple answer, everything is possible.
I would say that you can have already on some computers the SIM embedded in terms of the SIM card. You can plug it directly into your computer. But just to make some joke also, maybe we'll not have any more PC in 2020s.
Any other question? There was one there.
Thanks. Hello, Stuart Clayman, University College London. It's interesting that you talked about the vertical markets and the applications that would integrate with the 5G network. But my observation is that most of the applications that are written for these vertical markets use IP and sockets. So you get a UDP socket or a TCP socket. But these abstractions completely hide the network. Even today, you can't see how the network behaves or what the attributes of the network are from any single device. It's completely hidden away. So I'd like to ask the panel how they think that disconnect could be resolved in this fancy future network. Thank you.
It's very interesting questions. I don't know the answer. That's why I call it interesting. That's why I said we have to start from clean state, building a network. The only way. How? I don't know.
Okay. I can just, I don't know if I've understood well the question, but okay, there are some, let's say, I think more globally you raise the question of the level of interface or opening of the infrastructure towards the vertical sector, because if you see it like a TCP socket on top of everything, hiding everything in there, you think about the high-level interface, which we have globally today with things like VPNs or things like that. But clearly, the idea with 5G, on my side, I think it's really to go on lower-level API, so to expose a bit more the capacity of the network to be able to control also this flexibility or this target performances more than just asking connectivity between A and B. So I don't know if it was the question, but this is what I understood.
Yeah, I agree what gentleman said. We just think we have a wire and IP address, and that's the job can do it. But now the world will start to look below this layer 3, so they want to see how they can improve the end-to-end latency. Maybe we need some kind of real-time IP. I don't know. We have it already in the Ethernet, real-time Ethernet in local area networks. Maybe we need it also for the wide area networks. But this is again maybe a new design. We don't see it right now. Maybe clean slate is maybe one approach.
I think we have time for one more question.
In the back here. Dirk Trossen, Interdigital. I have a question regarding verticals. To me, when I listen to the discussion about verticals, it sounds a lot about old industries meeting old industries. But a lot of data volume in 4G has been driven by industries that are not in the room. The Netflix, the Google, the Facebook. And in particular, remarkable about these companies is the fact that Google doesn't only provide information. If the network doesn't do the job, they build their own networks. A lot of technologies that we are using as a given in network technology comes out of these companies. The Open Hardware Foundation done by Facebook is a clear threat towards vendors. SDN comes out of the IT space. So where is the elephant in the room that we haven't invited yet in the discussion in 5G? Where is Google, where is Netflix, where is Facebook in the discussion on 5G? Why aren't they here defining what the requirement is?
If you allow me just to put your question slightly differently, I think, do you think that telecom itself would have to address the challenge? Is it a matter of others as well? And are there technologies or new system concepts, like, for example, of the kinds of virtualization or others, that are expected to play a central role in this?
For example, we know from the car industry, they say, no, the data belongs to me. Of course, Google would be quite keen on getting this data. But this is exactly a kind of business modeling. When you get information from the car generates 1.6 gigabit per second raw data. It's a lot, and Google would be quite happy to more or less evaluate this data. But this is exactly the point where the car industry says, no, I don't share this data right now. And there's also debate whether the society can tolerate such things, because out of this data you can also do something useful for society. You can repair roads, you can improve better road maintenance if you would get data from drivers, from cars. This is exactly what now the Commission discusses also in the context of ITS systems. How open should be the data which is generated by machines? And then the question is, who is benefiting from this? Is it Google, Facebook, or is it someone else?
Yeah. Maybe to ask about the elephant in the room. So we for example, for the workshop we organized with vertical sector in the association, we tried to invite this Netflix and Google, because of course, yes, they are important, and if we are looking at some proposal they are making in terms of protocols, they can really prevent some traffic optimization and infrastructure optimization that we want to do. So we have to work with them to really have this information on which type of usages are going on our networks, and really to be able to make the necessary optimization, like caches, enabling broadcasting, things like that. So really, this is a partner in the discussion which needs to be invited.
Yeah, on that point, it is very difficult issues for the operators now, and maybe also futures. But especially my company has already using many kinds of the cloud services, and using the very useful information which we can get from the users' activities and the behaviors or something. Those kind of information we can get, and we can analyze such kind of data, and we can provide new services. And that is maybe mobile operators' possibly unique services compared with the OTT players. So yes, that's my comments.
So just on the point of the different interested parties and how to bring together the side of vertical industries and telecom, and even others that would be could be playing a catalytic role to that. Do you think that it is now easy to take the first step for the engagement of both sides, or is there a distance to be covered? Do you think, for example, that collaborative research could play or should be playing a role to that? Or are we ready to take this challenge? What do you think?
Yeah, almost ready, I think. Yes, as I said, many companies, many people has a strong interest in the collaboration with the vertical players. And again, even for the vertical players, they have a strong interest in the 5G now. So maybe, yes, we are ready.
I think to start, we have to, it depends on the European Commissions and the governments, national government, to encourage a standardization, common research, as you mentioned, and investment. It has to come from top, the same time, from bottom.
Yeah, I would say also that we are almost ready. We are already starting to do things on the LTE networks with these vertical sectors. It's day by day we are learning and making more, deploying things, real things. But we also need this research and innovation collaborative project to really develop the 2020 use cases, because these are not ready and we need to work on technology components to achieve this and to have common innovation with these vertical players.
I think the way to start with collaborative research is the best way, because there's also there to build up trust between the verticals and the telecom sector. And here you can also start to discuss business models. I think it's very important. It goes together with research. I think that's the only way, and they need to be involved also in a design, because it's not that we do something for them, they want to do something together with us. It's like when you build a car, you want to involve, of course, also the car suppliers, not just build a car overnight and then try to sell it. It's some kind of design in, or joint design, otherwise the solution will not be accepted. You can do it now in a closed room and then hope you can sell it in 5 years maybe, but this will not be the case.
If there is no other burning question, I think we can now close this panel. Thank you for your presentations and your questions, and let's hope that we at least identified the right challenges and dilemmas, and maybe next panel we will be able to give more answers to those. So thank you very much.